Hello everybody, and welcome to this video on the Shakespearean sonnet. This video is designed to help you understand the two sonnets that you have been assigned to read. That is Sonnet 130, My Mistress's Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun, and Sonnet 18, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day. So, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit the pause button here and open up that Shakespeare slideshow that's in the poetry folder, and hit the play button when you come back. Alright, so let's get started. And we're going to start with the second slide of this slideshow. So go ahead and go to that. And you will see that a sonnet, by its definition, is a 14-line poem. Exactly 14 lines. And they are all in what's known as iambic pentameter. So iambic pentameter is a type of measurement. An iamb is a two-syllable foot of poetry. So each little division in this is called a poetic foot. And in this case, in iambic pentameter, a poetic foot is simply two syllables. And an iamb has an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. So if you want to, you can look at your poem here. We'll start with My Mistress's Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun. The my would be unstressed. The miss in mistress would be stressed. The second syllable is unstressed, even though it's spelled like stress. Eyes would be stressed. R unstressed, n stressed, thing unstressed. And you can go through that entire line and be like that. And then it's called a pentameter. The P, excuse me, the P-E-N-T prefix by definition means five. So like a pentagon is five-sided, a five-sided thing. So pentameter in poetry is 5 poetic feet. So there's 10 syllables in each line of this. And they each have the unstressed stress, unstressed stress, unstressed stress all the way through. Alright, you can see that the Shakespearean sonnet is a little bit different from the Petrarchan sonnet or the Italian sonnet. When we take a look at My Mistress's Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun, you're going to find that he's actually making fun of Petrarch and not making fun of a woman. And we'll talk about that when we get to that poem. And then notice the rhyme scheme. So the first and third line rhyme with each other. So that's why they both have an A. That's the fourth bullet point down. So they both have an A because they rhyme with each other. The second and fourth lines rhyme with each other. That's why they have the B. C and D are in the next couplet, but they don't rhyme with any of the lines in the first couplet. So C would be rhyming with the other C, and so on and so forth. Then you'll notice that you got the GG at the end. That's the couplet at the end. So there's 3 groups of quatrains. That's 4 lines each. So one group of 4, the next group of 4, the next group of 4 turns out to be 12 lines. And then the last 2, which are the couplet, turn out to be lines 13 and 14. And what's important about this, and one of the reasons why the couplet is set out by itself, and one of the reasons why the couplet, both their lines rhyme with each other, whereas you get the alternating rhyme in the first 3 quatrains, is that the couplet will usually take the reader on a different line of thought. Sometimes it will turn the line of thought or the trajectory of thought on its head. So, for example, actually the best way to show you the examples is to go ahead and take a look at the poems themselves. So, just know that those first 12 lines are going to take you down one line of thought. Then that last couplet is going to end up changing the trajectory of thought there. So, with that in mind, let's just go ahead and start. So, we go ahead and look at the next line of the slideshow, is Sonnet 130. Now, when you read this, you might think that Shakespeare is making fun of a woman. In fact, the woman is actually known as the Dark Lady, and several of Shakespeare's sonnets are dedicated to the Dark Lady. And there is some speculation on who that lady might be, but she is the object of affection for the other sonnets. But this one does not describe her in very flattering terms, and we'll look at that in a minute. So you're thinking as you're reading this, oh my gosh, he must hate this woman. He must think this woman is awful. But here's the thing. He's not making fun of the Dark Lady. He's making fun of other poets. So, particularly Petrarch, who was an Italian sonneteer. The poets he's making fun of, like Petrarch, would take women and create these impossible women and then put them up on this pedestal and write poetry about them. In fact, these women, their eyes are so bright, light would literally shoot out of them. Their breath smelled like candy all the time, even if they had just eaten garlic. It's all, their steps are so light they didn't even leave footprints. So they would create these fictional women and put them up on a pedestal and talk about how much they loved these women. Shakespeare is going to say in this sonnet, not so fast. I would rather be in love with a flesh and blood woman. So if we take a look at this, and let's just go through it line by line. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. So that's the opening line. So if his mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun, then what might the mistress's eyes in a Petrarchan sonnet be like? Perhaps in Petrarch's sonnets, you could go into a dark room with this mistress and you'd be able to see just fine because so much light, like the light of the sun, actually comes out of her eyes. Shakespeare's Dark Lady, no. Her eyes don't light up like it's got batteries in them or something like that. Coral is far more red than her lips red. Even today, ladies, you're putting on lipstick trying to make your lips redder and more attractive, right? Now, maybe not so red to the point where you look like a prostitute, obviously, but women will color their lips in order to become more attractive. But Shakespeare's mistress, her lips don't look anything like bright red. So, if snow be white, why then her breasts are done. Now, this needs a little explanation. In Shakespeare's time, women were considered desirable if they had really white skin. Women did not go to the beach and get tans back in those years, because having a tan meant that a woman might be a second-class citizen. She might be a girl that has to work the fields, or it might be a girl that works in a factory or something like that. So women were considered desirable if they were rich enough that they could sit indoors all day. They would wear long sleeves and things up like turtlenecks in the middle of summer to prevent themselves from their skin from changing color. So if a woman's skin is desirable if it's whiter, well, what's the whitest thing imaginable? Snow. But not in Shakespeare's mistress. Her breasts, and of course Shakespeare did have a dirty mind, so he went right to the breasts. Her breasts are done. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. So again, what might Petrarch's woman look like? She might have soft hair that you could just lose yourself in. It was almost pillow soft, but not in Shakespeare's mistress's case. I have seen roses damasked, which you can see set in an elaborate bouquet, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. They did not have artificial blush back then like you might be able to go over to Walgreens today and purchase. The way that women made their cheeks redder was they would pinch those cheeks so hard that the blood vessels would literally burst, and that would cause redness in the cheeks. So that's what women would do. They would torture themselves in order to make themselves seem more attractive. And so Shakespeare says, well, yeah, I've seen roses that are red. No, my mistress's cheeks aren't like that at all. They're just normal colored cheeks. Okay? And in some perfumes there's more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. Yeah, okay, so his mistress has bad breath. Petrarch's mistress has breath that smells like perfume, and you want her to blow into your face. But remember, in Shakespeare's time, there was no such thing as toothpaste. People did not brush their teeth every day. Nobody gargled with Listerine back in Shakespeare's time. So usually if somebody breathed in your face, they would probably want to make you gag. Not Petrarch's ladies, but a real woman, yes. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. What does Petrarch's woman sound like? Her voice is musical, and it sounds like she's singing all the time when she speaks. But not in the case of Shakespeare's mistress. I grant I never saw a goddess go. Now remember, some of Petrarch's, I probably haven't mentioned this yet, some of Petrarch's subjects in his poetry were goddesses. So he wrote poetry declaring his love to Venus. He wrote poetry declaring his love to Aphrodite. Think of the most beautiful goddesses in mythology, and that's who, and that is the person that Petrarch would have written a poem for. But Shakespeare's saying, oh, well, I've never seen a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. In other words, if his mistress is walking through the house, he can hear her foots on the floorboards. If she walks down the beach, she's going to leave footprints. A goddess, no, goddesses can walk on air, but not a human mistress. So, here it looks like Shakespeare saying, yeah, my mistress has got bad breath, she's got wiry hair, she thuds on the ground when she walks and all this stuff. Now, the couplet. Remember I said that the couplet at the end switches the tone of the poem, or switches the train of thought. So here is where the couplet comes in. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. What does he mean by rare in this case? My love is more rare than somebody else's love for someone else. Well, perhaps his love is stronger. His love is more genuine. His love is more pure than any she belied with false compare. In other words, Shakespeare's saying, you can have your imaginary woman there, Petrarch. You can have your goddesses whom you're never going to meet. I have a real live flesh and blood woman that I can call my girlfriend, and I love her a whole lot more than you love your imaginary girls. So, on that note, that is Sonnet 130. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Now, if you need to take a break before we get to Sonnet 18, go ahead and hit the pause button, maybe take a break, get yourself a drink of water or whatever, and then come back. Alright, so whether you took a break or not, let's go ahead and launch into Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Uh-oh, false comparisons, right? No, actually, the subject of this sonnet is somebody totally different. And he's making comparisons, and yet there's still going to be positive comparisons for this person that he loves. By the way, many scholars believe that he was writing about a dude here, but let's just go ahead and imagine that he's writing about a woman. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. What does he mean by temperate? Okay, warm, pleasing, pleasurable. So, summer's days are nice, right? I love a good warm summer's day. I like it a whole lot better than I like winter. When there's greenery everywhere and the sun is shining and everything is hunky-dory. But this person is actually more temperate and more lovely than even a great summer's day. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf has too short a date. So, summer's leaf has too short a date. Summer only lasts for 3 months in most parts of the world. In Georgia, summer seems to last 10 months. But, let's forget about the fact that we live in Albany, Georgia for a minute and say that in many places, particularly in England where Shakespeare lived, summer does not last that long at all. Perhaps, 3 months, 4 months if you're lucky, and then boom, it starts getting cold again. So summer's lease is just too short. It doesn't stick around long enough. At least not there. Okay? And sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines. You ever been outside in the summer and it's 100 degrees? Yeah, that's a little too hot, right? See, the object of this narrator's affection doesn't get too hot. Very temperate, very lovely all the time. Summer's nice, summer is fun, but man, can it get hot in the summertime. All right. And often is his gold complexion dimmed. That could be through cloud cover or whatever. And every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. All right. Life is a cycle, right? You're born, you grow up, you mature, you reach the peak of your life, you have a decline, you die. Summer starts off nice, gets really, really hot at some point, then it starts declining, and then you end up in fall. Okay. So, here's the thing. Thy eternal summer shall not fade. Wait. What? He's talking about a human being and saying that this human being has an eternal summer that shall not fade. How is that possible? Let's keep going. Nor lose possession of that fair thou ownest, nor shall death brag thou wander in its shade when in eternal lines to time thou growest. Alright, so here our narrator saying, hey, summer's nice, but summer fades away. However, your beauty doesn't ever fade. At least, the beauty of the woman or the guy that's being written about here. That summer shall never fade. How is that possible? The couplet at the end of this poem will answer that line for us. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So the this is what? Well, clearly the this is the poem. As long as that poem is being read by people, then at least the memory, if not the body, but at least the memory and perhaps the soul of the object of affection here will continue on. So this person has been immortalized, even though the person's body has died and is probably long since rotted away. This person's memory and this person's life has been immortalized through poetry. And isn't that a wonderful thing, to think that somebody could write a poem about somebody else, and as long as that poem is being read by people, that person's memory shall always remain alive. Alright, so those are Shakespeare's sonnets. I hope you've enjoyed them. I hope you found them a little easier to understand than some of his plays. Not that you shouldn't read Shakespeare plays or go see them perform. You really should. But I think that this is a nice little introduction to Shakespeare and the brilliance of his writing.